Exactly 100 years ago, the founder of the former Soviet Union passed away. We're talking about Vladimir Ulyanov, better known as Vladimir Lenin. To this day, he is on display in the Kremlin Mausoleum. Why the body of this revolutionary is still on display there after a century and still hasn't been removed, you'll find out in this video. Hey guys, welcome to a new video. As mentioned in the intro, today we're tackling an interesting question. So, why is Lenin still lying in this mausoleum after 100 years? You should know guys, this 100th anniversary of Vladimir Lenin's death got me thinking. To this day there are many Soviet monuments, many Soviet symbols, but one symbol is just different from all the others. And of course I'm talking about Lenin's mausoleum. The fascinating thing about this mausoleum is that this building is located right in the heart of Moscow. It's located on Red Square, making it accessible to all tourists, and truly at the most central spot, you could say. By the way, I visited the mausoleum during my last semester. And before we get to the main question of the video, I want to briefly share my personal experiences. So, you line up in a queue, admission is free, and then you go inside the mausoleum. And the crazy thing is, there are 4 armed soldiers with machine guns standing there, guarding Lenin day in and day out. If you stop for a moment to take a look at everything, you will inevitably be told to keep moving. That means you are not allowed to stand still. You have to keep moving. And you have about 10 seconds to walk around that coffin. And then you're already out again. And it's a very strange, surreal experience. Yes, and it's interesting to see how everything is guarded and so on. After this personal anecdote, back to the topic. It's interesting to wonder why he's still there after a century. And especially with the background knowledge that Stalin was also lying there but was removed after a few years. That means the only one who remained is Lenin. Today I'll try to answer why that is. But first let's discuss the mausoleum's history to clarify things. As I said, Lenin died in 1924, exactly 100 years ago. And the consideration of what should happen to him after his death actually began a few years before he died. Lenin was very ill towards the end of his life. And people like Stalin had already said during his lifetime that he should be mummified and put on display. However, Trotsky and others argued this doesn't align with communism, which prioritizes the collective. Communism was a very non-religious movement, and glorifying a person like that bothered him. That means there were groups who were in favor of displaying him and those who were against it. Who prevailed, we can see today. Lenin remains on Red Square 100 years later. For the whole thing to work, he has to be treated and reprocessed every 1.5 years. The whole thing is crazy to think about, because the body decomposes from the inside. The organs have long been gone, the bones are gone. That means he is basically just an outer shell of skin being preserved, so to speak. The lab has mastered this technique perfectly. There are even recordings of the process from the institute responsible for the entire mummification. It's also pretty crazy when you see how the whole thing works. And I'm really not sure if the footage is suitable for YouTube, in terms of monetization and all that. But I'll show you a few clips. It's odd, the skin is yellow and there's a large hole in his chest. But yeah. There are definitely some video clips from the lab that show how the whole thing works. You can see he's also dipped into a certain liquid and so on. So it's a real process. By the way, this lab has already preserved other political figures. For example, the North Korean dictators Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Exactly. And the Bulgarian communist leader from that era was also preserved. His name was Georgy Dimitrov. And he was also on display in Bulgaria for a long time, so the Russians definitely seem to be experts in this field. But now, back to the story. So Lenin lay there for several decades. And then in the 1950s, Stalin was added. The mausoleum was even renamed from the Lenin Mausoleum to the Lenin and Stalin Mausoleum. After Stalin, Khrushchev became the Soviet Union's leader and launched a major campaign against Stalin's cult of personality. And he tried to destroy the positive image that still existed among some parts of the population. And the result was that Stalin was removed again a few years later. And the mausoleum was renamed again, back to just the Lenin Mausoleum. Now that we've discussed the history, we can talk a bit more. What was done to remove him? Who opposed it? And why is he still there? Since the days of Perestroika and Glasnost under Gorbachev, when the Soviet Union collapsed, there have been many voices that spoke out against it. For example, the president of St. Petersburg was in favor of removing Lenin. The first Russian president, Yeltsin, also supported it. That means there were many voices saying that now is the time to remove Lenin from the mausoleum, but of course talking is always easy. Nothing was done, and of course nothing changed. And then Putin came to power. And Putin also has a very clear opinion on this issue. He is clearly against removing Lenin. Now, for example, you can see what Putin said to a journalist about this issue in 2019.
It's not about the matter or the body. That's not the point at all. And in my opinion, this shouldn't be touched, at least as long as there are, and we have a lot of people who connect their own lives, their fate, with this. They link certain Soviet-era achievements to this, and the Soviet Union is undeniably tied to Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, leader of the world proletariat. That's why it's better not to get into this, why we just need to move forward and develop.
I find his reasoning understandable. After all, there is still a generation that probably has memories of that time, feels nostalgic, and would be against it. That means this point is definitely understandable. You see, guys, the topic was very controversial in the past. There were some who advocated for removing Lenin, and others who were against it. Even within the party itself, opinions differ on this. In the party that Putin is in, there are some politicians who have spoken out in favor of removing Lenin, so everyone has their own opinion on this. But the question of why nothing has changed in recent history is easy to answer. Putin has ruled, Putin is against it, and of course Putin has to approve such decisions as the head of the country. That's the reason why nothing has changed in recent years over the last 25 years. And before Putin, why didn't anything change then? For me, the answer is this: the problem just wasn't urgent enough. Nobody was really interested. There is a progressive group that wants to move beyond Soviet history and move more toward Europe. But these people just focus on other issues, maybe things like press freedom or freedom of speech. So this problem just isn't urgent enough. And for something that's not particularly urgent, the struggle would probably just be too big. Because as I said, there's still a generation that associates something with that time. And there are also parties like the Communist Party in Russia, which also has some members who would be very, very outraged by any change. That means there are just too many deep disagreements, and the problem isn't urgent enough to discuss it thoroughly. That means the status quo is maintained. To conclude with a chess term, it's a classic stalemate, a draw. Yeah, nobody cares enough for anything to change, I'd say. There are just other things on the political agenda, be it COVID, be it geopolitics. And yeah, that's my explanation for it, guys. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you learned something new. I just wanted to try out a new format again, kind of a talk format. Especially now, admittedly, on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of Lenin's death, I thought this would be a fitting and interesting topic. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy these videos. See you. Until next time, bye. Ciao.